All right, today let's talk about the age-old question. What is better, swords or daggers for Rogue? So, this one is a highly sought-after topic that a lot of people battle back and forth for. I don't think there's a massive difference. We're currently phase 3. I just want to kind of talk about my nuance, like how I kind of look at it. But at the end of the day, I really think it's whatever you get to drop. So thankfully on my account, I was able to get the Perdition Blade, my first MC run. So I'm now daggers. Now, if I can get my hands on swords, I prefer swords. Let me tell you why. So the only downside with daggers in general is, yes, it's good for raids, and from everything I've read and tested, and I've really dived deep in this, future phases, there are better daggers that will be out that will slightly give you a boost, but it's much tougher to get behind the target on some of the encounters. That's the big part. So getting behind the different mobs in the different dungeons and raids are a pain in the butt. On the flip side, it is more interactive when you're doing dungeons and things of that sort, because you're constantly having to get behind something instead of just spamming Sinister Strike. Now, granted, you're only spamming backstab, but you at least have to get you have to be paying attention more. So you're more engaged, I would say. And for PvP wise, depends on what you want to do. Daggers arguably are going to be the best because they do the biggest burst. Now, if you were doing duels, you might want to do swords because it's easier to get a lockdown on like your combo. Like you could build combo points faster to be able to get a higher level kidney shot to truly make it where they never get out of the stun lock. So there's ways you could do that on both. It's a lot easier on swords because backstab's a lot more energy overall. So for PvP wise, I personally like daggers because I want to burst someone down in a BG and get out of there. I don't do as much Joels, but if I was going to, I'd probably lean towards swords. So overall, to start off, you can easily get some low level gear as far as to start with daggers, where swords you have to do like a quest line. So for daggers, you could easily, if you're just starting off and you haven't even got into the raids, you could go with the Shadowfoot Stabber. They're super cheap, 10, 15 gold. That's a great way to get into daggers. There is another dagger you can get, a BOE, that's about 100 gold. That's a little bit better. It's unique, so you could use that and then one of these. As far as swords, you could go with the Assassin's Blade as a nice easy pickup. So there's a quest out of doing Skullomance. You have to run it a couple times, but you get a great offhand sword that you would pair with the Assassin's Blade. So there's a couple easy starting weapons for both swords and daggers. And ideally, as you get up into the higher levels, once you get into total BIS overall, that's when, like phase 3, you're going with a chromatically tempered sword, and then the best is when you go rank 14. So rank 14 for swords, you can get the main hand and offhand, where when you go for daggers, you only get one of the items. So if I go offhand, then you're only going to get the dagger here. So this one's unique. You don't get two different weapons like you do with swords. And then with daggers, so, okay, Perdition Blade, great. It's going to carry the whole way through phase 4. Then you need to get the Corehound Tooth. The only downside when you start comparing, it's a little bit tougher to get daggers over swords without doing the rank 14 PvP, just for the fact that if you look at the Corehound Tooth, look how many bests in slot it is. It's best for hunters, druids, warriors, rogues, and protection, where the offhand for the rune blade of the Black Flight is only for warriors and rogues. So it's a lot less people competing, two less classes competing for the Corehound Tooth, so it's a little bit easier to get. But at the end of the day, it really comes down to what you're able to get in the raid. So out of, I think, 6 of us that are rogues, 5 are swords. I'm the only dagger, so it's going to make my life a lot easier. Another downside, though, to being daggers is in open world farming. So I like to do, if you've watched my videos, I like to do a ton of open world farming on mobs. So I can't really get behind them to do backstabs. So I have to rely on just, I'm basically in the front hitting with a sinister strike, which kind of defeats the point of being daggers, because a lot of my damage is backstab. Like, I'll get a cheap shot into like one backstab, but then I'll start having to use sinister strike, which is not good. Much easier when it comes to swords. So if I had a perfect, I could choose in whatever, I would go swords. I think swords are by far better for open world farming, easier in dungeons. You don't have to get yourself behind it in raids. You can stun lock overall, great. But if you have to, there's nothing wrong with going daggers. So I plan to do a lot more PvP, and that's why I want to go a little bit more into daggers. So it depends on what you want to do. I think overall damage-wise, you're going to be very, very comparable. Everything I see in the best parses on the server from 2019 to now, daggers is what is taking the lead. But swords are really not that far behind. I mean, if you're really trying to nickel and dime it, yeah, okay, go daggers, even future phases, whatever. But at the end of the day, they're so close. Like, you're going to be high up on the damage meter in general. So don't get hung up on that too much. And like I said, when you look into future phases, it's not till phase 5 for swords and daggers is when you're going to start replacing your weapons as far as that goes. So you're good the whole way through phase 3, phase 4 by just getting the items out of MC, where with swords, you have to get the swords out of BWL. So a little bit tougher to get the weapons for swords, easier to get it for daggers. Daggers, I would say, better for PvP, a little bit better overall. Swords are a lot better in my opinion because you're able to open world farm with it, do more stun locks. With daggers, you need to have the Age Core gauntlets because you're getting the +5 to daggers. So by going that direction, for swords, I would end up going the 6-piece Shadowcraft set, and then I'd go with the hands and pants for the Devil Sword to be able to get the combo of both. Eventually, both of them, you'd want to get the 8-piece out of BWL set bonus because the 8 set's pretty nice. But the ability to be able to have flexibility overall in your gear by having the Shadowcraft set makes it very nice. And, not going daggers, you have to get one less item. So there's lots of ways to look at it. I'd love to hear your feedback. Which do you go and why? Tell me, in this phase, future phases, why would you go swords or daggers? What do you prefer? Really break it down. Love to hear from you guys. Until next time, though, game on.